Nearly everyone in the real estate industry wants more deals or wants to get more clients. Today, we're covering some of the top tips by top agents, including myself, about how we actually get more clients and actually close more deals. So let's talk about that. And the first way to actually get more clients and close more deals is actually just follow up on everything. Everything. Follow up is key. You can be really good at getting people to talk to you and get them into the pipeline, put them into Client Keeper, the CRM, and the whole kit and caboodle. But the thing that is most important is just following up. Following up, because the implications of following up are instrumental, meaning it's going to not only show that you're professional, that you care, that you're involved, that they can respond back to you and dialogue back and forth. So when it comes to following up, it is absolutely crucial. This is probably the way. Obviously having an amazing CRM like Client Keeper that just specializes in follow-up is going to be like mobile on your phone follow-up. It's going to be a game changer. So making sure that your main focus on a honestly daily or every other day basis is just going through your client database, who needs to be followed up with, check obviously all your follow-up notifications on Client Keeper, and just keep working on that. Because, and this is a little trick of the trade, is that even if you shoot a text message off, give a phone call, and they never respond, there have been so many times in my career, in Sally's career, in Timmy's career, and thousands of other agents' careers that you just keep following up, and eventually what will happen is say, oh, funny that you called me because I'm ready to buy. Happens all the time. Now, and I'm being honest, a lot of clients will just text you back and call you back and have a conversation. So that's pretty normal, especially if you're dialoguing on a normal basis, obviously. But there are those clients that you'll never hear from, and then one day you text them or call them, and they're like, hey, by the way, funny you mentioned. So follow-up is absolutely key if you want to get more deals and get more clients, of course. And the second way to close more deals and actually get more clients is you need to pick a niche. Now, if you have a 10 to 15, 20 year career in real estate, you could probably drift away from your niche. That's not a problem. But when you start out, the way that I see it oftentimes is you need to start off with kind of a broad spectrum. You need to learn the industry. You need to do things. You need to sample everything. Throw spaghetti against the wall, see what sticks, of course. Now, once you start getting your sea legs under you, and you start figuring out what you're good at, what you're not good at, what you enjoy, what you don't enjoy, what you can do consistently for 5 years, and I'm not exaggerating there, then you niche down. Is it helping people that are moving out of the area that are up in age that need to basically get out of the area and like sell their homes? Is it people that are going through divorces that you are the specialty in like being empathetic because you went through divorce, you understand the whole process? Is it just working with people that have never bought a home yet? Is it working with just investors? Is it working with people that want to house hack their way into, a first-time home ownership? Whatever it is, you need to eventually niche down, because what you don't want to happen is that if you start just becoming a broad agent for everyone and everything, my kind of like rule of thumb, and this is kind of a weird phrase, is that if you become everything to anybody, then you become nothing to no one. And the idea is that if you are basically just a blob of like, yes, I do real estate, then it doesn't make a difference. Like no one can identify with you because you're like, oh, you're just a real estate agent? Get in line. But if you say, no, I really only work with first-time home buyers. I specialize in investment property. I only help people that are above the age of 65 or 70 or 75 or 80 looking to, sunset into the next stage of life. And I help them make sure their home process selling is incredibly easy. Whatever it is, if you can talk directly to those people, you will talk directly to them and they will identify with you because you know how it works, because you've helped hundreds before and hundreds after. And if you just talk to them, you can understand what they're thinking. You can understand you can be empathetic towards them. You can put yourself in their shoes of what they're looking for. So many times I'll get people asking me, hey, do you do commercial property? The answer is, of course I can. I can learn it. I can do it. But do I even try to? Not a chance. Always tempted, the shiny object, ignore it. You need to focus on your niche, and that is a great, simple way to get more clients and eventually close more deals. Whoa. Before we jump on to the next point, I put together a weekly newsletter only focused on things you care about in real estate. And we only talk about 3 specific things: how to get more leads, how to duplicate your client base, and how to close on more homes. This is truly a newsletter with insights from insiders. So if you want to make 6 figures in real estate and grow your business at the same time, this is the best newsletter for you. And it's also my favorite 4-letter F word. free. So enter your information below, name, email, and make sure you get that newsletter every single week. And the third way to actually close more deals and get more clients is you need to figure out what you're a 10 in. Now, what I mean by that is usually almost everyone is either an 8 or a 10 automatically just by life skills and upbringing and whatever it is. You are probably an 8 or a 10 or 9 or close to it, whatever, higher end in some skill sets. Whether you're a great communicator, whether you're empathetic, whether you're great just being repetitious, whether you're great on social media, whether you're great on, just being in front of people, maybe making events, whatever it is, whatever your 8, 9, 10 is, find those 2, sometimes 3, and just focus on those. If you are able to find those core things out and you do those often, the nice thing is that with the way that obviously humanity works and humans work is that once you get into a situation or a skill or a event where you're good at something, you get rewarded because you're good at the thing and you feel good about it. You're like, oh, I'm actually good at this. I like doing this because I'm good at it. Now, it's always a kind of a chicken or an egg situation. What came first, the skill set or the feeling of accomplishment? No one's obviously 100% sure, but regardless, sometimes you build it up as they come at the same time. But regardless, you need to find your level 10, your level 9, your level 8. And so when you do the thing and you're like, oh, this is actually, when you're in real estate, obviously you're going to be struggling left and right with different things, learning this, learning that, learning all the things that come with real estate. And then you find that level 8 thing there. Oh, I'm actually pretty good at this one thing. I really love doing open houses. I really love doing like chili cook-off events and trying to get leads that way. Whatever that is, just do more of that because you get this repetitious cycle of like, I'm good at it, I get rewarded, I'm good at it, I get rewarded, and eventually you become the master of that thing. And so find your 1 or 2 level 10 things and just do a lot of that. And the fourth way for you to close more deals and get more clients is always be experimenting. Now, this is going to be a little bit strange, like almost like a backwards system here. When you first start in real estate, like again, so going back to the niche thing, you need to experiment a ton. What do you like? What don't you like? What areas of the real estate industry are not serviced? Maybe there's an influx of buyers. Maybe there's a influx or deflux, we call it, an exit of sellers because the area is not getting so good. You just gotta, once you get to know the market a little bit, you'll see vulnerabilities or open opportunities in the market. Maybe it's first-time home buyers. Maybe it's this. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's a one neighborhood. Maybe it's a certain city that no one really pays attention to. Regardless of all that, you need to be experimenting with all sorts of different things, events, buyers things, open houses, all the things. You need to experiment because, again, going back to what I said before, you need to find your 10 or your 9, obviously, by experimenting. So you always need to be experimenting for the first beginning stages of your real estate career. We're talking the first probably year or 2, maybe 3. But once you lock into a niche, once you find and build your skill sets, once you have your a little bit more systems in place, you then honestly stop experimenting in different ways. What you do experiment in, and this is where I say always be experimenting, is you find your niche, you find your core group of people. And it doesn't have to be necessarily a defined style of people. It could be an income bracket, it could be a neighborhood, it could be an age group, whatever. Once you find your people, you need to experiment inside of that niche. What do they like? What interests them? What doesn't interest them? What's cool to them? How do they live? Where do they sleep? Where do they go for food? Where do they drink? All the things you need to know. Know your niche. Always experiment. Do they respond well from gift cards? Do they do this? Do they like events? Whatever. Always put yourself in their shoes and then always be experimenting to see what sticks and what doesn't stick. I've done this through my whole career, figuring out a niche, seeing what works, what doesn't work, what responds, what actually draws benefit, and then just keep doing that experimenting. And eventually you can probably dial back the experimenting at some point, but just know that if someone were to come and try to, let's say, enter your niche a little bit, your niche that you've picked out yourself, you might need to start experimenting and trying to innovate over and over again. So I always say just keep always innovating and experimenting. This way that if someone does try to creep in and maybe you get a little bit, I don't want to say lazy, but kind of more relaxed, or if someone tries to creep in and steal your audience a little bit, this way you're always on your toes a little bit, trying to make sure that no one really enters your space and you can keep wowing and delighting your clients. And the fifth and last final way to close more deals and get more clients, and this is going to be more of a euphemism and a phraseology than anything. Volume always trumps luck, hands down. Volume trumps luck. The reason I mention this is because a lot of times agents will come to me and we'll talk, and they're experimenting, like we mentioned before. They're experimenting. And there's a season for that. And I kind of hinted towards this before, but once you, and this goes back to a book called Good to Great. It goes back to Jim Collins. He's the writer of the book. He mentions there's a really interesting story in the book talking about how when you're about to experiment or try things, he equates it to a battleship, and you only have a certain amount of pebbles or bullets in your battleship to try to find your enemy. And he equates it to almost like taking your cannon on your battleship and trying to line it up, and you shoot a shot. You shoot a shot. You shoot a shot. You're missing. And then eventually, you hear the ding, and you're like, ooh, that sounds interesting. What's that? You shoot another shot. You hear another ding. Ooh, that's interesting. You line up your sights, and then you shoot. You put all the things in, and you shoot your cannon. Volume will always trump luck. You experiment to eventually you hear the ding, and then you do volume. If you're specialized in a certain area, you just double down in that area. If it's with a certain age group, you double down. You become all about them, who they are and what they do. I've known, and especially if you ever interview top agents, what they do, they eventually get down to, here are the 3 or 2 things we just do over and over and over and over again. So for instance, some people are avid cold callers. Some people are avid open house. Like I've met so many teams build their businesses just on the back of open houses. They don't do 1 open house on a Sunday. They do 2 open houses a day, sometimes 3, 7 days a week, 365. So when you find your ding, volume trumps luck every day.